While we try to be as helpful as possible, this podcast should not be considered as professional or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out professional advice for your own personal circumstances before making any financial decisions.
Alrighty.
I was going to start it, but I actually forgot how to start the fucking episode. Okay. Hey, legends, fucking welcome to another episode of Mr. Enthusiast, the Enthusiast Lab.
I'm Julia.
And I'm Nick.
And this is the Enthusiast Lab. That's slap happy.
All right. Now that Julia's actually gathered herself, we're going to actually start this fucking episode.
Yeah, alrighty, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Enthusiast Lab.
I already introduced this.
All right, well, I'm reintroducing it because
Don't. It's not all about you.
motor motions. So this episode is all about the tips, tricks, and kind of
So things to consider when you're doing your pre-start. Now, we are going to do a whole fucking shebang about pre-start in a different episode. We're going to do a very light touch over, and then basically how with Mr. Enthusiast, right, we're fucking hectic, right? And at the end of the day, I might not be able to physically attend like I used to. So what we actually do is actually send off some tips about what I would actually, probably hint at your pre-start meeting about, things to consider, things that you might be able to save some coin on in the long run. So we're going to go through quite a few fucking little bits and bobs and basically how to try and prepare yourself for pre-start, because it is quite a lot. It is a very fun time. It's probably the more fun time because you get to choose and pick everything. For people like myself, a lot of the boys, it is fucking overwhelming, and I just want to go and have a fucking beer and let the missus fucking deal with it, right? So in light of that, what we're going to do is just a little bit of fucking some tips to consider, because a lot of you guys out there just need that little bit more of extra guidance. You can take this with a fucking grain of salt. No one's fucking telling you to do this shit. And it may change which builder you go to, who you're using, shit like that. Even with our own builders, because we have a few, right? Some of it might be applicable for one builder, but not the other. So take it as a little fucking, just a bit of guidance. That's what today's going to be about.
your pre-start comes with your standard selections and your standard kind of inclusions. What we're particularly talking about are small upgrades. Some are big, some are small.
Some upgrades, some are just alterations on how you position things that can be quite, that can save you a bit of dollars in the long run.
That would make a big impact. Big impact on the overall presentation of
your home.
The home. And some are more expensive, some are cheaper, some don't cost you anything at all. But things to think about. So these kind of like our pre-start tips.
These are the pre-start tips from Mystery.
Yeah. And whilst pre-start is really fun, I think some people really underestimate how many choices you have to make back to back. Like I am pretty excited about pre-start. We just went through this quite recently.
Yep.
I know, like I walked into this knowing what I wanted and we still got overwhelmed.
Oh, dead set. I've fucking built 350 fucking homes now. And I still had to walk out for a fucking smoke twice because I almost wanted to kill you about making some decisions, because it just gets so overwhelming. So,
and it's like a 4.5 hour long appointment if you're doing it fast as well. So it does get very overwhelming, tedious after a bit.
We've had people do it in an hour and some in like 3.5 hours. So the biggest thing is the more you're prepared and the more decisive with your decisions you are, the easier the process is going to be. If you're not, you're going to be in there for a long time. A lot of the times from both our builders, the girls that help you at your pre-start, they are really good and you can lean on them for some support. But this is just some things to consider to try and prepare yourself before you have to lean on them for to help you as well.
Help and guidance, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. All right, come on, let's fucking go. We're like 10 minutes in and we haven't even fucking started yet.
So the first thing that we recommend is going and visiting the showrooms.
Correct. So depending on the builder that you go with, let's say for example with ours, one of our builders actually has a little showroom, ProGen Homes. They're located out near the city, just off what's that main road? Fitzgerald?
Yeah,
Fitzgerald Street. Yeah. So if you're going with ProGen, because we do have a few clients going with them, you can actually pop in and actually see the little bit of a showroom, and obviously reach out and ask about who are their suppliers, like for their flooring and all that, so you can see the full range. Because a lot of the builders will have some sort of showroom or might not actually have one. So going to the suppliers, you can actually see the full range of what's actually included, rather than, the top picks or whatever it is, because it may work for some people, but some people might have a very different taste in how they want to set their homes up. So we definitely do recommend, if they have a showroom, go have a gander. If they don't, start reaching out and figuring out who are those suppliers for the main things. And what we're talking about is your main flooring, so like any carpets or floorboards, if they're included, the tiling, your wet area tiling, your main floor tiling, your kitchen tiling, all that type of shit, your splashbacks. Go to, some of them actually have like where all the plumbing goes. So, in regards to that, we're talking about like basins, tapware, all that type of shit, because then you can start touching, feeling, seeing, a concept may look good on a photo, but when you actually start to try and grab it, you go, nah, that feels fucking weird.
Yeah.
And then go for a different type of handle, shit like that. So those are some of your main ones, I think, for suppliers. Painting. Fuck me. So a lot of the builders, right, they're all leaning towards moving on to portals now, which is quite a lot more interactive, which is really cool compared to back in the day. You had a fucking big-ass A3 booklet, right? So it is a lot better now, but... and a very big but on this, guys, is the colors that are shown on a lot of these fucking portals from these builders is so fucking off. It's not even funny, right? So if you see, for example, like a Miss Universe is a very common color that is used as a bright white for your doors, and you look at it online, it looks like a shade of yellow,
Yeah,
like
it's
a real
cream
off,
colour.
like a creamy yellow. Yet in reality, it's actually pure white. So what we recommend and what I recommend the most is figure out who the builder's using for their painting. Some of them use Dulux, some of them is Taubmans. So Levada, I think, are using Taubmans.
Yeah.
So what I recommend is go to your Bunnings that's close by and go into the paint section and figure out what the Taubmans are, that they have, the range, and then start looking at colors from there. So if you, let's say you narrowed a few down that you liked from the portal, now go in and actually get those samples. And what I recommend is go back to your home and stick them onto the fucking wall, onto a few different walls, and go and have a gander and have a look at it in different shades of light. So what I'm saying is turn the lights on, have a look at it, walk away, turn it off, have a look, see if it's still what you're looking, and then maybe come back in a day or two and see if you're still liking them. And as because you'll have a few options, and then start taking them off and narrow it down. That is the way that you'll probably get the best option, that what you're going to like the most, rather than trying to choose from a computer-generated image.
Same with the Taubmans thing. Also, open your blinds, close your blinds, because you might not have them open all the time.
Yes,
and
100%.
check it during the daytime, the morning, and sunset, because it changes the
Look,
entire
it depends.
lighting.
If you're working from day to night and shit, try and check it in the morning before you fuck off, and then try and check it when you get back.
Or on the weekends.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, so
However your life is structured.
those are big ones, and sometimes people opt to upgrade their flooring, and that's why you visit the flooring companies.
Go to the suppliers and actually figure out what the fuck, because again, they look great, and this is the thing. Same as stone bench tops, everything looks great in a small little portion, and it can look perfect. But when you got to think about, right, a lot of the living areas are like 7 meters long, so that small little grain, for a wood grain especially, that is always going to change over long
Distance.
long distance.
Long distance.
Long distance. So over a long distance, that can completely change. So what you thought, was a bit more of a darker color might actually be very light, or vice versa. It can be very dark, and then you go, oh fuck, like this is
too dark.
This is getting depressing. So now you have to fucking change it. So these are the things that you want to start really fucking figuring out before your pre-start meeting, because once you choose your floors, especially, and your walls, that is going to start determining the rest of the home and how you're going to start, setting shit out, from tile options to your bench tops to your cabinets and your tapware. That can all fucking change. And with the bench tops, that can change as well. So we're officially in 2024, and stone bench tops have been banned, right? This is something that is passed in. Now, in light of that, a lot of the builders are moving to something that's called like a zero silica product. So it's very similar to what engineered stone was. And some of these suppliers will have their own products and like versions of it, which will be similar, but they're not the same. So you want to go to whoever these builders are using and see if they've got any 3 meter slabs or anything like that, bigger options for you to look at. Because again, what may look great on a small little fucking, normally they're like what, about 8 or 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, like little fucking samples, does not equate to when you have a 3 meter long fucking island bench, I can assure you. So what you thought looks great might look really dull or really overpowering as well. So
for example, like veiny whites, like white with veins. When you look at it on a small sample, it might look very veiny. But when you put it out onto a big scale, like that was the one vein that runs through the whole slab.
And you don't know what you're going to get with. And a lot of these guys will always put little clauses in there going, based on, can't guarantee that the vein design, or the exact vein or whatever bullshit. Same as like with a lot of tiles that have a lot of texture to it or some sort of, it's not guaranteed what you're going to get when it gets done. So you got to run some of those risks with how you're going to do shit. So go out and see things and see if they've been laid somewhere. So then you can get a realistic idea on what the fuck you're doing. Keep going.
The other thing that we recommend is with your consultant, sales agent, whatever you want to call them, get them to print out a floor plan for you. Go and photocopy it twice and draw up what would be your electrical plan.
Yeah.
So what an electrical plan is where all your light switches, your power points, and your downlights or light bulbs would go.
Yep.
Walk around your current home and think about where you want to put the light switch. Think about where you need your power points and where you want the lights shining. And I think because you're already picking so many colors during your pre-start, the minute you switch over to electrical, your brain is so fried already, you're going to miss something. So if you walk in with some ideas pre-planned, it's giving you something.
It will. So you'll get your electrical plans when you sign your building contracts. It is part of your full set plans. So in your building contracts, you got your contract, then you got your quotes and your addendums, all that bullshit. And a separate one is your what's called a full set. And what that is, you'll have one page would be your house sitting as a site plan. Then it would be your floor plan, some engineering drawings, elevations for the front of the home, side and the back. Another page would be your elevations inside the kitchen and bathrooms. And one of them is your electrical plan. So grab that page and then print off a couple versions. And the reason why we say actually print off a few is that so you can actually separate them. And let's say you do one and you actually grab and you just focus on light switches. One of them just on, LED downlights and one just on power points. That way you can separate and you don't start blurring them all in with each other, because the lighting can be different compared to the switches, compared to your power points. They're not going to actually have to interlink with each other, but you can have them separated. And the more you're prepared, the more easy it's going to be. And we'll go into more detail what we recommend about some electrical changes. But definitely if you can do a little mock-up, it will save your fucking ass and you've got time from when you've signed a contract to your pre-start. So the sooner you prepare yourself on that end, the less likely you are going to forget shit, which you can then obviously make sure you get it right for your building and then fucking take it from there.
Yeah. So these are our tips for the outside of the home.
Yeah. So when you start going to the outside of the home, the number one thing I always go through is add between 1 to 3 external wall lights, because on most builds, across most builders, it's not included as standard. And you don't need to go fucking full retard, like full send on this.
Nothing fancy.
Just a generic external wall light, like a bayonet out the front. And I recommend putting one into the corner where the garage is, because you can switch that out for a sensor with a light point. Another one near the front of the porch or portico, whatever you've got. So then you've got some front, and then probably one on the back on the other side of your home, on the front of it. So then if you want to do any like security or whatever with the lighting and shit. So at least 3, maybe 4, but I reckon between 2 to 4 is realistically a good number of lights, which is, depending on the builder, it might be like fucking between $60 and $90 each. It will save you a shit ton of fucking money, because trying to chase the the walls afterwards, when it's all rendered and you've moved in to put your lights, it's a fucking shit show. And Sparkies, like, we didn't do it for our build. We asked a few Sparkies to do it, and they basically, we ended up saying no because it was a shit show, and they were just charging a fuck you fee because it was a fuckery. So the more simpler you can make it, it makes your life easier. Grab it simple ones, then go to Bunnings when you move in and just switch them out, make them look real fucking pretty, put some proper nice ones in. But the lighting and all that, the components that are needed is already there. It saves yourself a lot in the long run.
So one on the left, one on the right, and one in the middle, basically.
As a bare minimum.
Yeah. Second one is if your block has a big yard and you are thinking of putting in a pool, think about shuffling your soak wells to a different location or to the front yard.
Depending what it is. So we do quite a few pools. We don't include them, but we set them all up.
We don't build them.
Yeah, relax, guys. I'm not going to pull a fucking pool in. I'm not doing a 30K promotion for 4K here, okay? So basically how it works with the pools and shit, make sure you let us know. And what we normally do is, because a lot of the times you've got two big soak wells that might be located at the back, we'll shift them to the far side depending where you want to plant your pool. Or if there is room out the front, we will pull them to the front and they'll be like under your driveway type of thing. So make sure you do it, because otherwise you're gonna have a pain in the ass where you're gonna have to relocate them yourself afterwards, or they're gonna charge you when they do the install and shit, and then have to readjust all the plumbing. It does not cost you any money to move your soak wells. So save yourself the fucking heartache of fuck knows a couple $100 or a couple grand for them to move shit afterwards, and just do it straight off the bat. So future pace your home.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, always try and future pace.
And the last one is don't always jump and pay for glazing on the front entry.
Yeah, so for your front door, right? If you do have the opportunity that you've upgraded it at, during when you've signed up, or you decide to choose a door that has the glass inserts in them, the builder standard is not to include any sort of glazing. So what I mean is like to have it obscured. So the cost of that with many of the builders is fucking astronomical, right? So what I've recommended with a lot of people is go get it fucking tinted afterwards, because a lot of people want to tint the front of the home anyways and do like a limo tint. There are many companies that can do it pretty decent. So why not get them to quote to do a door that, might have 4 little slits in it or 1 slit, whatever style door you have, and to do your front window at the same time. They might give you a little bit of a better discount because you're doing more of the house rather than just one. I recommend that because it'll look fucking sick because it'll be blacked out, all that shit. But also it provides a real good privacy as well, because it is a lot harder to actually see into it, but you can still see out.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. At the end of the day, we're all a little bit of a peeping Tom. If there's some fuckers yelling outside, I want to be able to go and see what the fuck's going on without being caught seeing.
So the next,
I like drama. I like a little bit of
drama.
I guess.
So the next one is electrical and lighting, and this is probably the biggest area that you need to budget for in your electrical plan.
Yeah, I normally recommend people to, as a figure, because everyone wants figures, right? If you allow $1,000 to $2,000, you will fucking cover yourself for extra PowerPoints and for other shit that we're about to talk with. Again, you start decking shit out and do things a lot more, you're going to fucking spend a shitload more. But as a rough idea, if you put 1 or 2K down just for lighting, you'll be pretty schmicko. Yeah.
So most people will add a couple more general power outlet points throughout the home.
PowerPoints. No need to be official.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad. They'll either add more or they'll change the location. Changing location doesn't cost you anything. Adding more does.
Correct. Well, you're adding something that wasn't there, so you just get charged for a new one.
Correct. So when you are adding more, this is the places or the things that we recommend you consider. Yep. So the first one is where you charge your phone. So this isn't necessarily talking about the bedroom. This is now talking about outside the bedroom, because everyone goes to bed, puts their phone on charge and leaves it overnight.
On the nightstand or whatever the fuck you do.
Throughout the day, where else do you charge your phone? Next to the couch, at the kitchen,
living area, theatre.
Think about those kind of positions. And a great place to add one is under the center. Blah, 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 blah. I'm
waiting for Julie to fuck this one up. So on your island bench, on the breakfast bar bench. Now, you can't always add these in this area. You need to have some space in the cabinetry in order to pull it behind it. But I recommend you do it. If you've got the cabinetry, you got the space for it, allocate a double power point underneath your breakfast bar section, either to the far left or to the far right. And that way, if you've got anyone entertaining, because you might put some stools there or whatever, they can then basically sit down, you'll still spit yarn, you're in the kitchen area, and then basically just have a fucking charging port. There's all sorts of fancy shit. You can do ones with USBs, you can spend fucking stupid money and do ones where you can actually click it and it comes up as a charger. This is a very cost efficient, saves your fucking, and it's something to consider that can actually be a bit of a saving grace. We never used to use it at first. Now we fucking use it all the time. We're charging our drones there and shit during the day, before our construction run. So you never know when you're going to use it. And extra power points are always handy in a home.
Exactly. The next one is popping one in the broom cupboard, where you might charge your...
Well, that's if someone has a broom cupboard. So one of them is to do a broom cupboard in your laundry.
Okay.
And to actually add a PowerPoint in there as well.
Okay, well, add the broom cupboard, but if you have a broom cupboard or a linen cupboard...
Yep. Add a single...
Yeah, single or a double there.
Single or a double. Honestly, I think the difference between single to a double, because you're adding a whole new unit, is like fucking $7 or $10. Just do a double, fuck it. Like $10, man. Get the fuck over it.
And that's to charge your vacuum if you have a cordless vac.
A lot of people are going to these fucking cordless vacs like Dysons and all that shit. So chuck one on and like at like a wall height wise, because normally you drill, you put the fucking stand on and it sticks to the wall. And you just fucking have it charging. Happy days.
Yep. Under the island bench, which we covered.
Yep.
The next one is in the corner of the living room for things like your Christmas tree.
Yes.
Because no one really thinks about where they put their Christmas tree and how they're going to connect the lights up to it. So great for a lamp, and maybe at Christmas time you can switch out the lamp for a Christmas tree.
Yeah, so the location we're talking about is normally, when you look at a living room, normally there's like a little dead spot with some brickwork around where the alfresco is, or like in the opposite section of that area. So wherever you decide that you want to, put that nook in where you might hang the fucking tree, chuck a PowerPoint in there, because fuck trying to run 10-meter extension leads and shit like that everywhere. Just add one in there. Again, you don't have to. If you don't celebrate Chrissy or whatever, fuck, just put it there for, a little Scentsy thing or some shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is it? The Scentsy things?
The wall plug smelly things.
Yeah, the wall plug smelly things. Whatever the fuck they're called. That's what they're called here in Mystery.
Think about if you have a room where you're going to have your study, if you have a room that's a study, or where you would use your laptop. So in a study, think about adding extra PowerPoints.
100%.
Or adding one close to the lounge room where your couch would go if you work on your laptop from the couch.
Oh yeah, true. So then you're not fucking running big cords everywhere.
Like we are.
Yep. A lot of these is what we've actually experienced over the last fucking 7 years in our home, going, fuck, why didn't we do this?
Yep.
Now you get to know all of these little things that you should do, and what a lot of our clients have actually advised too, that they really enjoyed.
So in every bedroom, think about where you would want to position the bed.
And then put an extra one.
And put an extra one. On either side of the bed.
Whether you like it or not, and you go, oh no, that can be fine with one, I don't give a fuck. Pull an extra one in.
So worth it. Like you 100%. Will kick yourself in a couple years' time when you need it, and it's not there.
They might not need it, but we were all kids once, and there was just no enough fucking PowerPoints. We just had one. It was a pain in the ass. In my place, it was a pain in the ass to try and grab somewhere for a phone charger. I had to move my bed to try, because I only had one position for it. So if I wanted anything, and I had my computer back then, I was running big ass fucking cords everywhere trying to fucking put everything
big
together.
Power boards.
Yeah, and the big those adapter boards. So, let's say you've got a window where your minor bedroom is. Normally, you might put the bed against that. So then put move the current PowerPoint to like the left-hand side, and then add one to the right-hand side. So no matter which way it is, if you had two side tables, you could put two phones to be charged from both ends. That's the type of style that we're trying to explain. Master bedroom, same thing. At least in the master bedroom, put an extra one, and obviously separate left and right. But also think about if you're going to have a fucking TV in there, and if you are going to have a TV, you're going to have it with a night like a stand, or you're going to hang it on the wall. If you hang it on the wall, then pull it at that. I think it's about 1,500 high. Chat with your Prestart. They normally have a designated height wise for that. but slap one in there. And then maybe do one underneath as well if you're into gaming, console and shit, and you want to play from your master or whatever. That's also something to think about.
Think about vacuuming. So one in the hallway at least, so that
if you're using a cord one.
If you're using a cord vacuum, and even if you're not, I think it's not a bad idea if you plan to ever sell your home in the future.
Because they might have a cord vacuum.
Because they might have a cord vacuum.
We still have a cord vacuum.
Yeah, we like a little vacuum. But just
killer.
to make sure that you are not pulling out cords out of the sockets because you're trying to reach the next room or get halfway down the hallway. So just have one there so you can work your way through the hallway without having that tug happening.
Yeah. If you know, you know, that tug.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Because you get to that fine point where it's like, oh, I can just get a little bit more, and then boom, it just cuts out.
Yep. And think about the garage as well. Don't forget the garage. Mr.
Garage over here will advise you on what to think about. Obviously, your tools, charging for anything, always put an extra one at the very front of your garage, either on the left or right-hand side, for power washers or vacuuming. You got to remember, we do a lot of 4 cars, 6, 8, 10 cars, even just a 3 car, or like a little bit of a workshop. If you had it on the very back of the wall, as a bare minimum, the shortest distance would be about 9 meters, if not 12. So think about where your vacuum is, and you've decided to pull it, just a little bit forward of, inside the garage. You still got to take fucking 9 meters, and half the, vacuums and whatever aren't that long. So you're going to be running big, extension leads. So rather than having extension leads running everywhere, have one on the very front, have something at the back, so that if you're power washing something at the front, in your front driveway, you don't normally want to do it in your garage. At least you got fucking a point there, because you normally have a fucking tap somewhere nearby because you need a tap and a power point for your jet washer and shit. Put it on the front. Like, why have this massive 12 meter long extension lead just to try and get to something that you could have just spent, what was it, $80, $90 for a power point just at the front.
Yep.
It's small things like that you can you tend to forget. And think about, if you're going to slap some shelving and stuff, where you might want to look and query is if you can shift some of those brick pillars in WA. If you can shift those brick pillars a little bit wider so you can actually fit snug a shelving point. And if you do, is that where you're going to, charge some of your tools, or fucking, if you got, what is it, like Ryobi or Makita or fucking Milwaukee or something like that, you might need to, charge all your batteries and shit. So again, these are the things you got to start decking out. How are you going to deck out the garage, and where would I actually be able to use it at some point? Definitely some at the back. If you've got any cars that, you don't normally drive them around, so you might need to leave them with a trickle charger, make sure you have them in those back sections, especially where you're going to designate the car spot. So, back right, that's where, like for example with us, the FG might sit there for a week or so. If I need to put down a trickle charger, at least designate an area where I can just plug it in, let it sit, happy days. Do you know what I mean?
So in other words, one on the right, one on the left, and one on the back as a bare minimum?
As a bare minimum. You shouldn't be doing it. And then from that, you could do it as a double, or you can change it to a quad, the one at the back. So then you've got more spots for a more cost-efficient size. So locations is a very big one, but also remember not to... The one thing I like to say is don't cheap out on PowerPoints, especially... with brickwork, because you can just chase it into the walls. It's a lot easier rather than getting it done afterwards, because the sparky that does it afterwards when you move in, you got to think about the fact that they got to chase it up, then patch it, then paint it. And it's not always going to be exact. So save yourself the heartache and, potentially trying to save $10 in the future. Just get it done now.
Yep.
If you've got the budget for it.
The other one is if you don't have a microwave box, which isn't super popular in designs anymore.
No.
Put one in in your cabinet, your pantry.
Yeah, that's a big one. So if you don't have like big laminate pantries and shit, and you do have a microwave, and most people still do, grab your in your pantry, you'll have your 4 shelving. Normally, if you're counting it from top to bottom, so top one is number 1, second is number 2, third one is number 3. Shift the positions of number 2 and 3 and make it a little bit taller so that you can actually fit your fucking microwave straight into there, and just put a PowerPoint at the back. And then that saves yourself, if you don't have enough bench space, to designate somewhere else that you can still fit where it is. So it's not eating into that small little corner right next to your, where your hot plate is.
Yeah.
So you can just have it tucked away, hidden away, and whenever you need it, open it up, off you go.
Same like your bathroom vanity. So if you are a big hairdryer or straightener kind of girl or guy, think about putting a PowerPoint inside your bathroom cupboards in the ensuite.
Inside
in there.
the cupboard.
So then you can always have it plugged on. Just don't switch it on or switch it off as needed. But then, if you don't want to unpack everything and unroll
even just
it,
for blokes, man, for the shavers and all that, like you can go chuck it on so it's in charge. So rather than having it all eating, a lot of I would say like millennials and stuff, with the way that a lot of us that actually grew up, are really moving towards being a lot more of a minimalist. So not actually having shit clogged everywhere. So
if you like clear benches,
100%,
you've got electric toothbrushes, you've got electric shavers.
Dead set.
For women, you've got your or for men, your blow dryers and your straighteners.
Yeah,
all of that is normally kept underneath.
You can chuck that underneath and just put some fucking PowerPoints, and you can have them all plugged in, let them charge, whatever, and then just pull them out as you need, and it keeps the bench tops all nice and clean. But again, you can add some on the bench tops as well. But it's things that you don't consider, but would actually be quite a bit of it will just make your life that little bit easier. If you don't like it, just turn the fucking PowerPoint off and just don't use it.
You also don't see it.
No, exactly it.
And another one is outside. Think about where you're going to plug in your speakers. Think about when you might be power washing your backyard.
Yep. Fucking barbecue. If you're going to do a full outdoor kitchen setup, if you want to put a bar fridge somewhere.
Yeah.
All sorts of shit like that. Like
one or two outside would be 100%. Schmicko.
Yep.
And
PowerPoint for fucking how we got our little zapper thing for like mosquitoes and shit. Fuck, no one thinks about that shit.
Yeah, that needs power.
Yep. Power.
And a big one that we advise all our clients is adding a PowerPoint in the middle of the room. And you kind of touched on this when you were talking about the master.
Yeah.
In your living room, if you are ever planning to wall hang your TV or wall mount your TV,
yes,
pop one in the middle of the wall where you're planning to hang your TV.
Yep.
That way you won't see all the cords hanging down to where the normal...
Yeah, technically, no. So that one, yes, 100%. But then you've also got to think about some people like to game, right?
Well, one at the bottom, one at the top.
No. So, no, because sometimes you need to connect the HDMI cable from your PS5 to your thing. So, adding on to that with your PowerPoints is you can actually do a little cavity in the... Fuck, I think it's called a cavity... shit. If you're watching the video, you just see me going, oop.
What is it called?
Conduit,
yeah.
A conduit pipe. So basically, it's a pipe that they cut out the bricks, chuck her in, and basically what you can do is actually feed your fucking all your cords and shit from the top to the bottom, so it keeps it flush, and it looks fucking schmick. Fucking schmick. No, but basically the whole point of it is to try and not have fucking cords dangling everywhere. So have a wall mounted PowerPoint for your wall mounted TV. But also, if you do one of those conduits as well, so you can actually feed any of the cords that you need, like HDMI cables and speakers and all that shit, you can hook it all up and keep the wall flush so then it looks clean, which a lot of people want. Sometimes people just need a couple on the bottom because you have like sound bars and shit. Again, depends on what you're looking at doing, but it's these things, if you're not thinking about them now, it's a pain in the ass afterwards. The number one thing that I'm really trying to get through to people as well, with a lot of the builders, they give you what's called an NBN data ready pack. And what that means is they're gonna smash the fucking NBN box right at the back of your garage. That's where it normally gets located. However, in this package that they give you a data point and a TV point, right? Now, most builders don't actually give you an antenna. So even though you have a TV point, you can't actually fucking use it, right? So number one is if you still watch free-to-air TV and shit and you don't use it from apps and you do want to turn on the telly, so to speak, ask them if they have a fucking antenna included, and if they don't, make sure you add one in, otherwise you can't use it. Then delegate it where you want that. Do you want that in your living room? So then when you entertain, you've got the telly on, or if you want it in, you want to watch your sports or whatever, your free-to-air sports and shit from your master. That's number one. If you guys are like what I am, and me and Julia, we don't really watch it. And if we do want to watch it, you can just download the fucking app on your TV, on your smart TV.
Except 10play.
Okay. That's a you problem because I don't watch that shit. So, in saying that, you can get them on apps. So, we have, and Shut up. So we have an antenna. Julian, we're in the middle of a fucking podcast here. Pull your shit together. We have an antenna point, right, in our living area. It has still got the original cover from when we had it at PCI. Oh, yeah. It has never been, with the sticky tape on it, it has never been fucking used. So it is a quite a cheap upgrade to change this antenna point into another data point. Now, I like to fucking game, and sometimes I game on the PS5 or on my laptop or PC if I get one and shit, right? So what you got to think about is the best thing you can ever do is get quite a few data points, because then you can feed your Ethernet cords straight from, so what happens is you can connect your NBN to go into the house wherever you've fed all these data points, and then you put your modem into the right spot so then you can work your wireless, and then you can actually, as a gamer, you want your Cat5 or better Ethernet cords, so then you've got your real good, obviously, internet connection. Mm-hmm. So it's direct. Now, using that, you can upgrade your antenna point to actually be a data point for sweet fuck all. It is a very minimal upgrade compared to adding an extra one. So why have something that you're never going to fucking use? So upgrade your antenna point to become a data point, and then delegate that unit to wherever you want it, whether it's going to be in the living room where you're going to game, or into your theater, or into your master, or into a bedroom that you might turn into a gaming room, whatever it is. And then think about pulling them onto what's called internal walls, because you can just you can get it all chased. Everything outside of that, adding extra data points, we actually recommend for you to not do it with the builder most of the time, because they charge an arm and a leg for electricals. Mm-hmm. Because what you can do is get a Sparky that can actually feed it through the fucking the cavity of the double brick wall, and actually get it for fucking pretty cheap. So if that works with the positioning, how you're going to do your gaming and shit. But if it's not and you got to chase it, maybe do it with the builder. But that's a real big one. It's like you get a free data point, or you might spend, I don't know, $15 or whatever, and you get another one, whereas a whole new data point might be like $120.
Yep.
Fuck, I'd pay the $15 within a heartbeat. So if you like, you watch a lot of free to air and shit, it's a fucking no-brainer. Just make sure you query and upgrade it, because it gets missed all the fucking time. And half the time, people don't even fucking use it.
Mm. 2 more electrical points. So the first one is check where your switches are. We fucked up so bad in our first house. And
I'm going to also blame the fucking pre-starter, because she didn't fucking help us either.
She should have told us about this one. Check where your switches are. You want the switches when you open the door to be like right next to the door, not behind or like at the edge of where the door opens up to.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is check the swing of your fucking door, number one, and then number 2 is where the location of that switch is behind, so that it's not behind the swing of the door.
Yes.
You want it, like you said, as soon as you open, wherever your other hand is, it should be basically using to touch it, because you're not going to open it and then use it.
What?
Just bang.
Yes. Bang.
Fucking open, bang. It's on.
And the lucky last one is LED lights.
Okay. I'll do this one.
Nick's like, okay, hold on.
This is a sensitive subject. Okay. Now, depending on who you're using as a builder, if you're using our builders, they normally do a 30 LED downlight package. So it's actually an adequate amount of lighting. I've seen so many fucking builders, and what they do is they give you 1 LED downlight per room as their LED package. So number 1, check what the fuck you got. Now, if you have 30, the general rule of thumb that I've seen a lot of these electrical plans by the builder is they delegate 2 per minor bedroom, 4 in the master, 1 or 2 in the hallways, and then a shitload obviously in the living area, which is what you want.
A kitchen, living, dining.
Yeah, kitchen, living, dining, all that shit. 1 or 2 in the alfresco, depending on how big it is, 1 in the porch, and your garage always gets missed, right? That's just how it is as a rule of thumb. Because you also get LEDs in like the walk-in robes and your bathrooms and your toilets, all that shit, right? So you got 30. So it's a good starting point. Number 1, guys, do not fucking pay for any more downlights with a builder. I love my builders, but it's fucking extortion. Most of them are charging between $120 to $150 for a 7-watt LED downlight. Most Sparkies out there will charge you fucking between $40 to $55, maybe 60 if they fucking, you know what I mean, on a bit more premium side. Why the fuck would you be paying 2 to 3 times the price just to have it done in the build? If you've got lights and you can turn them on, that's all sweet. You don't need to have it completely decked out. That is fucking excessive. So save yourself some dollars and use what you've got. And the best way to do that, let's start with the minor bedrooms. When you look at your minor bedrooms, 1 LED downlight is actually pretty decent. 2 is great, but it starts getting quite bright because these downlights that they use, they have quite a broad radius for how much light that it generates. It's not in display homes that have very like specific lighting where it's shit. I forgot what it's called, but basically the light is actually very focused to like one direction. Rather than it being a broad radius, it's actually a lot more focused, which is why I love display homes that have like fucking 90 of them to make it real bright. Now, when it comes back to normal homes like us, just normal people, basically they're a lot more brighter. So I recommend in the minor bedrooms, if you are planning to have 2, then move 1 into one side of that room, normally like on the left-hand side. Get rid of the other one. You can use that for something else.
Just relocate it.
Yeah, you can relocate that, right? Leave all of your minor bedrooms with only 1 downlight and put that into a spot where it's going to be. You can then get a sparky to come in afterwards and actually cut a hole and put an extra lighting into the other area where you want one to be added in after. Do not, for the love of God, put one in the middle. Fucking stop. Don't do it. Unless you only want to have 1 in that room completely. Because what will happen is it's going to look fucking weird if it's right in the middle. So if you offset it to the left or to the right, you can always add an extra and it's going to look flush. Like, you got to have some sort of OCD with your house. Like, it has to look clean. Otherwise, it's going to look shit. And then you're going to fucking sit there one day and go, why the fuck did I do that?
You also don't want to be patching and painting and trying to repair a hole.
That's my next part. You don't want to be patching and painting because that's extra cost and extra fucking labor for absolutely no reason. So save yourself the hassle and delegate into one area where you might want it. If you just want 1, then just smash it in the middle. Fucking, it is what it is.
It does generate enough.
It does, 100%. But if you do want to add extra, that's the first place I would start scavenging some extra light so you can delegate into other areas. So put 1 in there. That's your minor bedrooms done. In your toilets and shit, it's entirely up to you. If it's already got 1 included, cool, keep it there. If not, you can always change it back to a standard lighting and just put like a little cover on it. Depends. Some people fucking don't really care about them. When you go into the living area, so we're talking kitchen, living, dining. In the living and dining, I normally recommend that you need to have about 4 in each section. So 4 in the living, 4 in the dining. So that's about 8. So you'll have 4 in a row, 4 in a row. That gives you quite a decent amount of lighting in there. When you go into the kitchen now, you got to think about over your fucking if you've got an island bench or whatever it is, if you want to do like a little bit of a feature statement with like, like a pendant light or something like that. If you have something like that and you do plan on doing it and aim to do it pretty quickly, if you have a lighting there, remove it. And what I recommend instead is put what's called a junction box. It's basically a box that has all the pre-wiring sorted and it gets thrown up into your roof cavity. So that way, when you buy your fucking custom, whatever it is, lighting piece, you got to remember that so many of them are so different. Some of them are like a real long black strip, for example, and it only has like 2 little tether points that holds it together and 1 cord coming down. So if you had this big ass fucking LED downlight, you then have to patch it and then recut a hole just for that 1 cord, which, do you know what I mean? Twice the amount of work for no reason. So you're better to have the lighting there and then the sparky, whoever comes to hook it up, can actually designate exactly what needs to be done and it will keep it flush with minimal work. And then everywhere else that you might add, in your scullery, in your pantries and shit, still add some lighting in there so that when you're actually cooking, you've got some lighting around you. So definitely don't do it above you. You want them off to the sides of you because otherwise that shadow will always be where you're fucking cooking.
Yep.
Just shit like that. In your garage, don't spend the money on LED downlights. If you've got extra, cool, but don't go and spend the extra for it. You're best off moving some lighting points and doing some like LED, what are they called? Like
the straight ones. What are they called? Ryan, what are they called? The straight lights in the garage.
Shit, it's just gone completely past me.
The fluorescent tubes.
Yeah. Fluorescent lights. So you've got like a panel lights and shit. So you can actually do some LED panel lights that will give you a shitload of lighting in there, and you can get them done afterwards. So If there's one or two in there, cool, and then just get that switched out with a sparky when you move in. So those are really important ones I do recommend. In your master, if you do have 4, be prepared that you need to add a dimmer switch in there because that is a lot of light. So maybe just think of just shit like that.
Okay, so 2 more things. Because I know this episode's getting long, guys. Just buckle in.
Fuck, this is all about. This is our fucking tips.
Storage. So to improve the function and maximize the storage in the home, there are 2 things that we recommend doing. One, both come with a bigger price tag than what your electrical could be, and be prepared, electrical can rock up.
Yeah, it can ramp up real quick.
But one is and most standard inclusions don't include overhead cupboards.
Yes.
Think about overhead cupboards if you want to install them during your construction or after construction.
Yep.
Both are very doable, but if you are looking for
a flush look.
Yeah, a flush look and not having to fiddle around with doing extra work post handover, adding in overhead cupboards. Now this can cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But worth thinking about.
Yeah, so on the standard kitchen, how that would work, you add what's called a 28 cores bulkhead. So it's a square bulkhead that goes above where your range hood and everything goes first. That helps frame that section out, including if you're doing the fridge area, which is normally next to it on most plans. That's number one. The next part is the actual cost of the cabinets. The cabinets will then go up to that bulkhead so that it's flush, so you don't have a random gap above it where you're going to fucking collect dust with the trim. And then the third component with that, which comes into the cost, is what's called an integrated range hood. So what that is rather than having the range hood, which normally sticks out, like in standard plans, it then gets converted into one that is actually completely boxed into your overhead cupboards. So where that range hood is, you don't gain the cupboards, but it's all boxed in so it looks nice and flush. When you open it up, you normally have like a very small little gap, a little bit higher up, like on the second shelf. You put some like spice racks or whatever in there. But
spice racks? I don't reach in that high. Just put stuff in there that you only put special dishes.
The special dishes that you never use it ever again. So again, there's a little bit of storage in there. So that way it creates a full flush look. And then in the fridge area, if you do decide to do it, make sure that you've actually measured your fridge before coming to your pre-start for your width, so you know your maximum width of what it is, and the height. Because if you do if you do overhead cupboards in the fridge area, you need to make sure that if your fridge is 1800 high, make sure that your cabinet doesn't fall shorter than 1850. So that means that gives you 50 mil, so 5 centimeters of gap between where the fridge will finish to where the cabinet starts. And that way you don't want to be skull dragging your fucking fridge in.
No, because
do you know what I mean? You need a little bit of airflow around it. So just that little bit around on each end is definitely very, very feasible. Like that's fucking number one pre-start tip.
Yeah.
Measure your fucking fridge. Figure out, what washing machine you're looking. Are you looking at a top loader washing machine or a front loader?
I completely forgot to add this
exactly it. So if you do a front loader so this is your laundry. So if you've got a front loader washing machine, cool. That also means that you've got room for a dryer. Does your laundry allow you that you can put them next to each other side by side?
Or should they go stack on top of each other?
Or do they stack? But there's the thing. If you can put them next to each other, cool. Do you have bench top that goes across? If not, this is something you can look at now. And that gives you just a little bit of extra storage for folding clothes. I don't fucking know what people do with that.
You don't do the laundry in this household.
Obviously, I don't do the laundry in this household. So do you know what I mean? That's one option. Or if you don't have enough room to put them next to each other, then you can do a stacker, dryer on top, washing machine underneath. So these are the things you can start really thinking about and going, fuck, you know what, I can actually, use this place to the most efficiency as possible. But
definitely.
Man, we've got so much shit. Like I think this will be enough. At least it gets you a bit of an idea on most of the stuff. Oh, we'll do a little bit about bathrooms. Fuck.
We've only got 4 points left. So
there's always more, but we're just doing a very general for now. See what your feedback is with everyone listening.
Okay.
And then if they like it and, there's other things you guys can have thought about that we haven't mentioned, let us know. Then we can actually do a part 2 to this, I reckon.
Okay, so we are already 50 minutes into the episode, so I reckon we'll cut it here and we're going to do a part 2 because we still have so many points to cover. Like we got to finish off the storage. We got
the bathrooms and shit.
We got to go through the bathrooms, and there's
like extending mirrors and fucking recessed cabinetry.
We definitely have missed stuff, and we've got much more to cover. So we'll go back to the whiteboard and brainstorm some more ideas.
Probably one thing with bathrooms before people wait is in wherever you've got a shower and a vanity, there's always a random fucking gap in between. Ask to get a brick nib wall into it and put the shower screen at the edge. That creates a ledge in there. That's probably the one thing I'm going to say that is worth putting it straight away for people to think about.
Okay, we will add that in more detail in the second episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Part 2.
Yep.
Guys, obviously we have so much stuff to cover, so we're going to definitely do a part 2.
Yeah,
There's
100%.
still a lot of stuff that we've missed.
Yep.
But just to make this into bite-sized pieces, we'll wrap it up here.
Yes.
We didn't expect this to go so long.
No.
So
as we're going, we just keep finding more shit. We're like, oh fuck,
we didn't think about this.
And it's actually really worth doing. So yeah.
So let's plug. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Instagram,
and Google
and Goggle. Leave a rating or a review.
Let us know about this episode. See if you actually, like message Nick fucking on Instagram or whatever, wherever you guys fucking do anything, or just leave a review. What are your thoughts on this episode? Has this actually helped you guys to give a bit more of an insight onto, things to think about? As well as the fact of, in the part 2, is there anything that we've missed that you guys thought while you've had your experience or thought of that might actually be worth, going over or whatever?
Yeah.
Let us know, because it might be a couple more weeks before, we'll look at doing the next part to this rather than doing it back to back. So it gives you guys a bit of time to actually think about.
And eventually in the future, we'll try and get a pre-starter on,
and
they can share their
shebang.
lights and actually explain what pre-start is, because I don't think we've talked about what pre-start is.
No, we actually haven't done it. We've glanced over. We've explained what the process is, but like we can actually go into detail with pre-start, because we're getting a lot of people at the moment with it that might have needed a little bit more knowledge and a bit more guidance. So we can definitely fucking go through that and help you fucking legends out. I was going to call you I was going to call you fuckers, to be honest. I just meant anyways, you fucking legends.
And just remember, guys, we're not here
to fuck spiders.
Have a great day.
Catches.